Hello, I'm going to be making a video about how to build a Smash stick, how I built my Smash Fight stick. This is pretty much completed. As you can see, I haven't quite glued the sides together, but it is fully functional. The stick right here moves like this. Got buttons. Blue button is A, green button is B. This is a C button, and this is shield right here, just like 64. So one thing you'll notice quickly is if you want to, there's no grab button. If you want to grab, you press these two at once. If you want a grab button, I'd recommend probably replacing this button and placing another smaller button here, but that's really up to you. The red button is start. This is an extra C button here, and this is the D-pad. So on 64, jump, grab. This is an extra color. You can also jump if you want to, but you don't really need it. And this is taunt, so you get very convenient taunt cancels. This stick also works on melee. This little switch I have right here pushes it between 64 and melee. You can see if I grab this cable, there is a 64 plug at the end of it, and there's a GameCube plug at the end of the other one. So in melee, the slight difference is this here gets remapped to taunt. This is now the C-stick, which makes it very convenient. You really don't need this here for 64, but for melee it's nice to have a C-stick. In hindsight, I think it should be positioned slightly further to the left, but I do like this positioning for it, although feel free to mess around with it if you want to. And this is light shield in melee. Now the convenience is, if you play Street Fighter, you'll know this is the grab input in Street Fighter, so you can jump cancel grab by plinking like that. Wave dash is that. You can do shine stuff like that. So everything's positioned to be convenient, but if you want to change the positioning, it's really easy. So to build this, you'll need a few different things. You need an arcadeshock, which is right here. You'll need these quick disconnects, quick connects. If you need to, I'm not going to show you how to use these. If you need to know how to crimp them, you can find it online pretty easily. You'll need a hot glue gun, and you will need a soldering iron. Mine has been very well used throughout all this. So the first step you're going to want to do is you're going to want to cut this stick right here out of your arcadeshock. I'm not going to do that for you now, but you can see the final result is like this. So you can kind of use this as a guideline. You'll want to open up the arcadeshock first so you can see inside, but use this bar right here as a guideline for where to start cutting, and then in general cut a circle like that. You need the reason is, I'll open my stick up now, you can see the insides. The way this stick is mounted, you can see part of it is mounted inside the case itself, and I tried recreating it myself. It's rather difficult, so it's a lot easier just to cut it out and hot glue it in. After that, you'll want to take the PCB out. You can see I have a PCB right here. This is the arcadeshock PCB. You'll want a cardboard box, like this cardboard box. For cutting the button layout, I went with a design like the TE2 Plus. See, I have my TE2 Plus here. You can take this plastic out and use it as a cutting guideline, or I'm sure you can find something online. And I just cut space for a small size button here instead of a larger one. For this PCB itself, you'll see, actually the hot glue might be covering it up. Well, if there was no hot glue there, you could see that each of these is actually labeled. So like this one will say A and B and whatnot and so on, going down, so you actually know exactly where to put each thing. You'll also, so what you'll need to do is get some wire here. You need wire, and you need wire cutters. So you'll cut the wire, you'll strip it. This is a wire stripper, and there's also a crimper up here. So you'll want to cut the wire, strip the wire, and crimp quick disconnects onto it. Once you do that, you should get something like this. You can see it's a quick disconnect. It's got the protection here, and you just plug it onto each button. And connect, so you'll solder it to the PCB on one end, and the other end you'll do this and connect it to a button. And you repeat that. You want 2 for every button. The exception is the C buttons. There's only one ground for C. You can see C is located right here, so this is the ground for C, and then I have C down and C right. I think that's where the two of them are. There's 4 different C buttons. Unfortunately, they aren't labeled, and I don't remember which one is which, but I have down and right. You can do some trial and error, work out which one you want where. And So the main thing is because there's only one ground, you need a ground wire that has multiple stops, and that's pretty easy. You just stick 2 different wires into your quick disconnect when you crimp it. So you can see I have one quick disconnect here, but there are 2 wires coming out of it. And if we follow this wire, it leads to my other C button. And that doesn't matter for 64 if you only want to have one C button, but I guess it doesn't matter for Melee if you don't want to have a taunt button either. But otherwise, you kind of need it to have access to everything in Melee, and you need it if you want more than one color in 64, or more than 2 colors in my case. So that's pretty much it for how you build it for 64. The wire itself just comes out of the PCB. If you want a longer one, I guess you can cut it and put your own there, buy an extension cable online. Otherwise, it's pretty straightforward, honestly. If I didn't explain anything clearly, or if I have any questions, you can ask them to me. Message me on Twitter or something, or Discord, or YouTube, or whatever. I can't guarantee I'll look at YouTube, but Twitter probably. So for the rest of this video, I'll talk about how I made it work on GameCube. For GameCube, you need a couple extra things. You need this switch. It's a 3-pole double terminal switch, so it goes back and forth between 64 and GameCube. You'll need a RAFnet 64 to GameCube thing. You can see I have one right here. You'll need AVR programming, whatever this is called, I don't remember. It was like $40 on Amazon-ish, so it's kind of expensive, but yeah, you'll need that. You'll need my code that I wrote, which I will post online. And you'll need a GameCube cable, obviously. So the first thing you'll want to do when you get the GameCube cable is cut it, and you want to cut it towards the end. You'll then need to open up the end and get, you can do that by, it'll be something like, here we go, I've grabbed my things. It'll be something like this on the end, and you'll want to cut it open. You can cut it open with a soldering iron, which is what I did, or if you have an actual plastic cutter, that's, a lot better than what I did. Let me see if I can find, let's just put this one in for the example. So this right here is what the end will look like, and you'll see the RAFnet guide for how to use this PCB also labels everything, but just so you can have it explained quickly, your colors might not be the same, but it'll be this layout. The red will be the data, the black and yellow are ground, the green is 3.3 volts, and the white is 5 volts on this one. And like I said, yours might not be the same, so you want to cut it open to actually see what it is and make sure. You can see I have it wired up here. Actually, the one I had wired up had blue instead of white, so already different colors. But you can see they map up the way that Raph specifies they should in his instructions. The one thing I did differently is that there's not a lot of space along here, so I wired the black and yellow ground wires up to the N64 ground wire, which is also wired up to the programming ground wire. So there's a lot of ground wires all tied together right there. And there's also the programming wires, which I mentioned on the RAF site. Some of them have come off now, I took them out. But there's a reset wire goes up here, the power wire is here, ground goes there, and then there's the 3 other ones that are labeled in his programming schematic. And once you get all those, you'll want to grab them and plug them into one of these things. It's got 6 different things there, and plugs into this. There we go. And that will plug into your programming plug thing, whatever it's called, which will plug into your computer. If it's working correctly, let me jump to my computer. Well, actually, mine's not going to be working correctly now, will it? Because I unplugged it. But you can go to, what's it called, Atmel Studio, go to Tools, Device Signature. Well, yeah, so you'll have the code open. You go to Tools, Device Programming, then you can click Apply and Read. And the device signature, I can't remember what it is, it's like 21489 or something weird, but it'll have a 9 near the end. And if that's correct, then you'll know if it shows correctly, you know you'll be ready to program. An error I had was it showed 737373. If you get that, it means that you soldered. There's a soldering loop in right here, so you want to be more careful with your solder. So that's how you wire that up, and then you'll flash my code, and everything should work correctly. If you need to make any changes to the code, I mean, it's all ref, it's all open source. I made some changes to it just to remap for my purposes, for the light shield and C-stick on the dpad and taunt and stuff, but you don't really need that. Let's see. Oh, a couple other things to mention. Where is it? So you'll have, from the GameCube cable, you'll have these really tiny wires. You can't actually, you can't, like, strip these wires. So what you want to do is grab them, like, by the tip, and then use a soldering iron. I can't demonstrate this with my hands right now, but you'll use a soldering iron right below where your fingers are, and that will allow you to kind of remove the, like, melt away the wire at that spot, and you can just pull it off with your two fingers that are attached to that are holding onto the wire. I'm sure there's a video of that online somewhere, but that's a really easy way to do it. Once you have all your wires in place, you'll want to hot glue them in, like you can see mine are, and I will also be hot gluing these very shortly. You also want to hot glue the switch in place so it doesn't spin around. But I think that is everything for how to make it work on GameCube as well. So thank you for watching.